Substance is a wild ass movie, and it may genuinely be one of the best body horror movies that we've gotten in a long time. But the whole time I was watching it, I couldn't help but think that this movie surely does remind me of something else. But the crazy thing about it is, the movie that it reminds me of is the complete opposite. Let's take a trip back to 1996 and talk about The Nutty Professor. Because when you look at the similarities between this movie and The Substance, you might realize that these are damn near the same movie. Both The Substance and The Nutty Professor deal with themes of not being happy in your own body. In The Substance, our main character, played by Demi Moore, was a woman who was dealing with the negative impacts of her aging in her industry. In The Nutty Professor, our main character, Sherman, played by Eddie Murphy, was having issues with his own self-confidence and finding love due to his body weight. And in the movies, both of our main characters were presented with a formula that would ultimately change everything about them that they wanted to change. And both of those substances had temporary effects, meaning both of our main characters had to periodically switch between their real selves and the new version of them. In The Substance, our main character was transformed into a younger, more attractive version of herself. And in The Nutty Professor, our main character was transformed into a slimmer, more masculine and confident version of himself. Another major similarity that both movies share is the personality and behaviors of the new versions of our main characters. In The Substance, Elizabeth was transformed into Sue. In The Professor, Sherman was transformed into Buddy Love. In The Substance, Sue started off as a nice, young, flirty, innocent, cute girl. In The Nutty Professor, Buddy started off as just a cool, confident, and suave guy, and the women loved him. But then in The Substance, Sue eventually became reckless, cocky, and eventually developed her very own conscience separate from Elizabeth. And her arrogance eventually caused her to break the rules of The Substance, which started to cause problems for Elizabeth, who was the real person. And that exact same thing happened in Nutty Professor, because Buddy also started to become reckless, arrogant, and started to feel like he was much better than Sherman, so he tried to take over Sherman's life. Once again, bro, proving that these are the same damn movie. Sue in The Substance eventually tries to get rid of Elizabeth, and Elizabeth in return starts to try to get rid of Sue. And the same thing happens with Buddy Love and Sherman. And both of these movies ended the exact same way, with our main characters both on stage in front of a crowd at a very important event where the effects of both substances that they took began to malfunction in front of everybody. Elizabeth/Sue ended up turning into this monstrous creature. And in The Nutty Professor, Buddy was on stage at an event, and while on stage, his body started to malfunction in front of everybody, morphing him between Buddy and Sherman in like a weird body horror type of scene. So both The Substance and The Nutty Professor had the exact same climax. This comparison is just further proof that it's not the context of a movie that makes it a horror movie, it's the way you execute it. But there's not too many horror and non-horror movies that mirror each other the way The Substance and Nutty Professor do. But there is one more that I could think of, but we'll say that for next time. If you want a part 2, just let me know and I got you.